I'm Ryan Stevens.
Dr. Taylor Waters.
I'm Ben Oliver.
Welcome to the Supra Human Show, yeah?
So what's up, guys? Taylor, how do you like Scottsdale so far?
Cold one, I thought. Yeah, I came out here the palest person in Scottsdale, and I think I'm going to leave the palest person in Scottsdale. I thought it was going to be hot. I've come out with shorts and stuff. I got nothing. Yeah, I thought it was going to be hotter, but it's nice apart from that. It's like Wales, just
just less rain and less humidity.
and with you two sat next to me as well. Yeah, I feel like I haven't left.
You said he spent money on a plane. You could have stayed cold in Wales.
Yeah. No, it's. I mean, in this, you'll see the comparison in the summer when it's 50.
It's probably
degrees.
raining in Wales, I guess. So.
Yeah. I actually walked outside. I was expecting to burn as I walked out that window this morning, and I turned around to Ryan and I was like, "Mate, it's freezing."
I tell you what, you prefer this weather than in July. Jesus,
Yeah.
50 degrees. What, I don't know what that is.
You'll be a lobster.
Fahrenheit.
You'll be a lobster in July.
You'll be shredded for the pool party, yeah?
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. So anyway, welcome guys to the Superhuman Show with myself, Ben Oliver, Dr. Taylor Waters, and my fellow, I was just going to say fellow Welshman, but I'm English.
Yeah.
I'd say my brother from another mother, Ryan Stevens.
Well, you only spend time with Welsh people, so you can be Welsh now if you want.
I'm like an honorary Welsh person
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah.
So we were just talking about, you know, our backgrounds before we were in online coaching, online one-on-one coaching, which is what we all currently specialize in and have done for several years now. We all came from a personal training or coaching background, and there's, just like we were talking about, there's some pros and cons to both. Definitely some nostalgia when I see personal trainers when I'm in the gym. I think a part of me does miss it, just the in-person social aspect. Yeah. Taylor, give me some highlights of your days in personal training, but sum it up as well with what was probably the best lesson you learned while training people in person.
See, I was a little bit different to you. You two were more, you went straight in with personal training on like a gym floor. So I did like a little bit more like sort of fitness class type of stuff. And then I
Step
actually...
ups.
No.
Burpees.
No, bums and tums. You know this. You know my past.
Legs, bums, tums.
Why do you think I got these glutes from? So I actually started more just like doing like fitness classes for kids and things like this, and then I actually went into more like S&C stuff as well. So that it went from a little bit more like the advanced side of it, not the advanced, more.
You kind of skipped a step.
Yeah, dealing with more like experienced people. I didn't spend too much time just dealing with people like one-to-one PT, and that's like your sort of stereotypical type. So I actually went more, and then started working with more like athletes as well. Did like a period of time working with MMA fighters from in an S&C sort of standpoint. So it was a little bit different. I didn't do loads of gym floor stuff. And then you could probably say that because I started doing online stuff like not far off 12 years ago now. And I was I'd been qualified sort of PT wise for a few years. But I almost started the other way around, whereas you two were like very heavy front on PT.
Yeah.
And I sort of started off, like I did a little bits here and there. Did a lot more like sports coaching and things like that. I did a lot more of, so like a lot more groups rather than like one-to-one stuff. And then I was doing my online stuff alongside that. So it was like I didn't get that first, you know, a lot of PTs, they get 5 years, 6 years gym floor, then they move online. So it was sort of slightly different, I guess, with my sort of background.
Yeah.
And so what was the one thing that you learned from? Well, because we can talk about the athletes later, because that's generally we work with Gen Pop currently, so we can kind of keep that in the context. But when you were doing the fitness class and things, like what was something that you learned, or like one of the things that you enjoyed the most about taking those classes?
I guess this doesn't sound like the thing that I love doing. I actually didn't like it. I actually didn't like the sort of group class stuff. It was something that I was good at, and like people would always tell me like you take to it really well. But it was always something that I struggled to see myself doing for a really long period of time. And I remember thinking, like, I don't know how long I'm really good. And that's why I never really drove forward with it, because it was something that I was good at, but it was difficult to apply myself to it. Because if you're not good at something, like if you don't enjoy something, how much you're really going to invest.
Starts like pulling teeth just to show up.
Exactly. And now, no, I'll do it for 20, 30 years and I'm still no better at it because I'm not fully engaged in it. So although like I was super driven by like the theory side of it, I was super driven by the nutrition and like the hard training, but then working with the sort of class gen pop environment, it was something that I couldn't really find my true passion. And it's actually when then I went online is where that passion actually came from. And I was like, now I found it. Now I found where all this knowledge, all this sort of passion that I do have is driven towards this. Whereas before it was like, this is something that I'm good at, but do I really want to be doing this for the next 20, 30, 40 years of my life? So it was a tricky battle at the start to be like, do I continue doing something that I'm good at, or do I leave it because it's not something that I really do love doing?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a real strange one for me starting.
I couldn't see you being the 40-year-old Pilates instructor. No. Down the local.
And that's the barrel that I was staring down. I was like, this may actually be me. Spandex was going to be my life.
So for context, so Ryan, you were working at the university gym that we were studying at, for our undergrads. And fun fact, you got me my job. I'd already had a job in a gym, but you got me my job at the university gym.
I remember calling you, and I was like, because I remember like the interview list.
Got messed up.
I was like, Ben Oliver's not on there. I remember saying to Alison, the manager at the time at the gym, and I was like, why isn't Ben on there? And he's like, oh, it's something to do with like the application. She was like, is he free for an interview now? And I was literally messy. I was like, Ben, interview now. And he's like, okay, and you come out to your lecture.
Ran down, put my suit on,
and then we got
bedazzled them, and then got my job at the gym. But anyway, so I remember you were, when we were working at the gym, one of your roles was you were an assessor for personal training certifications, and you're also a personal trainer. But before I ask you, what you valued from it, one thing which I love to see you do personal training was just how simple you made complex movements. Like you can, you go on Instagram and someone's breaking down a back squat and they're talking about, your middle finger nail should be placed on this knurling, count 10 inches from here. And you're like, right, you're just going to sit down and stand back up. This time, stick your knees out. And it was just very, very simple cues that made me realize how simple you can teach someone like a good movement pattern without making it sound so complicated, which a lot of people did. So from your training, because I know you did dabble into S&C and that's what you went to do your master's degree in, what was the biggest thing that you enjoyed or learned from working with Gem Pop in the gym? Yeah,
and I actually had a bit of both, like you said. So there was at the same time when I was working in the gym, I was obviously doing an S&C internship at the uni as well. And I had the same as Taylor, but where I didn't enjoy working with the athletes. I didn't feel like rewarded from it. Because I was like, you tell them to do something, they're going to do it. Or you literally tell them anything. It wasn't really like coaching. I didn't really feel rewarded from it. However,
programming.
You're a programmer. And I was like, oh, so I ended up doing my master's in it, but I realized that was something I didn't want to do. And then obviously at the same time, I was working in the gym with general population people. And getting a person to perform like a simple squat, like just an average 40-year-old woman never been training, is far more rewarding than when I was training the athletes. And I was like, I got so much out of that. And I was like, this is where I want to go. And I literally, after I'd done my master's, I didn't do any S&C. I just focused on personal training until obviously I transferred online. And it's one of those things that, people, like I'll always say, a good coach, they'll make complex things simple. And like, rather than saying like, oh, you need your finger placed on this side of the bar, I'm like, right, let's see what you got. I was like, okay, let's hold a dumbbell in front of you now. Let's squat to a bench. And you slowly see where they are. Like everything's on a continuum. It's like, okay, let's see how good their squat is right now. And just simple cues. You don't want to overload the person with the information. You want to give the smallest amount of information that gets them to the outcome that they want.
Yeah.
You don't want to tell them, oh, this is the squat, this is the biomechanics. Like they don't need to know that right now. And you're almost just trying to make yourself sound really good. Whereas like the goal is, I just need that person to squat. So I'm going to see where they are. And I was like, right, let's put a bench underneath you, put some plates under your heels, knees out. It's like, it's a great squat.
That's like that one line that you just said, like just, not overloading something and just like giving them what they need to get an improvement. I think you've taken that to online coaching exceptionally well, by just, again, you give them what they need, not what you think they need or what you want to give them to showcase your knowledge or whatever. It's just what's going to get them a little bit further along towards their goals right now that's extremely simple and that they can apply.
So I remember, I'm not sure if you remember, like S&C was like really big when we was like doing, when we was obviously doing our masters, and like you would see programs for like 40-year-old Dave who's never been in a gym before. It's like hand cleans. It's like, we don't even know if you can squat yet. It's like, when you look at the program, it's like, are you really just writing that to make yourself sound good? Or do you actually want to help Dave out? Like, Dave just needs to...
Is the iPad, and you go into the gym with an iPad, and I just had an
I just had a
uncontrollable
notepad.
urge to drop a dumbbell on your iPad whilst you're looking at your bar speed and stuff in the gym, and it's like, I can tell you your bar speed, it's wank. And it's just, but it's stuff like that. I mean, so I mean, my personal training background was similar to yours, but like my favorite story was I personal trained a woman, and then she came in one day and she said, I'd like you to personal train my son. He's 18, he's just about to go to university, he's got no confidence. He comes to the gym with me sometimes, doesn't really like it, but for his 18th birthday, I want to buy him a block of 10 personal training sessions with you. And I was like, okay. So he comes in, his name was Ollie, and he's a string bean, the classic skinny fat shape that, that we cringe at when you're like, oh, we got our work cut out for us. But anyway, so he said maybe 2 words to me for that hour. And same thing, put a dumbbell in his hand, have him do goblet squats to a bench. He had to go out, he went pale, thought he was going to throw up, and I wasn't beasting him by any means. But anyway, so he left, and I thought, well, he's never coming back. I'm going to have to refund his mum the money. And then she come in the next day and said he loved it. He wants to come in again for his next session. And so we worked together for about a year with personal training, come on leaps and bounds. And then he went to university, and he would come back, in his holidays and, just crack on with deadlifts and stuff, which I really liked. But it was when his mum come back in the gym, and she said, he told me the other day it was the best birthday present she's ever got him, because it got him out of his shell to go to university and socialize and get a girlfriend, and be confident and all of this stuff. And I think for me, that was like, that's how powerful this stuff can be. For that made me realize it's like, you could just help one person and change their life. And that, like you were saying, it's so much more fulfilling than working with an Olympian that's going to be at the Olympics anyway. You just got to tell them to go to sleep, and not do too much. And so I think making that transition from personal training to online, I think, one, I quickly realized the reach that you could have. The clients that I coach now, I would never have the luxury of meeting without, having the internet and being online and Zoom and things like that. But I think just from a accountability aspect, you can be there, you can be available more often. When you have PT clients, you see them for 3 hours a week. And, some good personal trainers would communicate with their clients outside of that, but it was more like, you see them for 3 hours a week, and then they're fucking up everything else the rest of the time, and you're trying to undo it the following week, and it would get quite frustrating. Whereas as soon as I started to focus on nutrition online, results just started to skyrocket with clients. I don't know if, Taylor, did you experience the same thing when you started working with your athletes online as well?
Yeah, I think just riding off the back of what you said there, I think no matter what results you get for an individual, like you get a wide range of results. Some people, you'll get them in mental shape. Some people, they're not in mental shape, in compared to sort of super high standards, but they're still in good shape. But it's one of the most rewarding things you'll do when someone turns around and they're like, you've literally changed my life. And I think it's one of those jobs as well where that happens far more often. If you're half decent, it happens a lot more often than people may think. When they, when you think about changing someone's life, they're very strong words, but I think it happens a lot more than like you may think. That didn't answer your question at all. What was the actual question?
No, so I mean, so when you started working with clients online, did you start to see results increase versus just working with them in person?
Yeah, I find you've got much more control. Like as an in-person PT or even taking classes, you see that person for 1 hour, and then you might see them twice a week. 1 hour, twice a week. Like how much of an influence are you going to have on their life in that small period of time? Whereas when you actually go online and you're in control of nutrition, you're in control of their training, you're in control of their sleep, you're in control of their activity outside of the gym, you can offer them support, you can help them solve problems. There's so many ways you actually help them that it's like a 24/7 support. And again, because you have full control over so many different aspects, the results that you see skyrocket. Like I've been around gyms since I was 14 years old. And
It doesn't look like it.
No, I know. What a waste of time. What a waste of 4 years. and it's like these PTs you see in the gym, you very rarely see extreme results coming from just one-to-one PT, especially from a body composition standpoint. Okay, yes, you might see, I know, confidence might shoot up, technique in the gym might shoot up. However, from a body composition standpoint, you might get the odd person who makes really big changes, but online, those numbers skyrocket. The sort of reach that you have in terms of numbers, but then the progress that they also get as well. It's a complete different ballgame.
Ben, so going back to that Ollie example there, it was like, and you said, like, you give him a couple of goblet squats and maybe some push-ups, like going on paper. It's like basic session, but then he went and told his mum the best birthday present you can ever have. Something I really learned, which you can take online and you can just have much more of an impact. Like what Taylor's saying, more resources, you can reach more people. There's more time for like structure and flexibility with coach and client. Is when you was training, there was nothing crazy about the workout you give him. The conversations you were having, how you made him feel, like gave him more confidence. He wanted to keep coming back. When people keep coming back, they get consistent, they get results. Now take that online and you make someone feel good, or like the more resources you have, reach a wider audience, like more touch points, results are just going to skyrocket. So I quickly learned that, okay, maybe it's not what you actually plan, it's the conversations you have, how you make them feel. Are they going to keep coming back? If you can get them to be consistent and you build a really good rapport instantly, imagine that with all more resources. Like Taylor said, you've got so much more control over a lot more things. You've got more touch points throughout the week. Results are just going to skyrocket.
Yeah, I think like one of the biggest skills I learned personal training was the time in between sets, where it's like dead time, where you can say, okay, on our next set we're going to focus on this, right? That's 10 seconds, you got another 2 minutes. And so it's trying to make small talk but make it productive, like not just, oh, you're up to much the rest of the day. It's more kind of talking about deeper stuff, because I would say some of the best conversations, or conversations that have helped someone change their mindset or belief about something to genuinely have them reach their goals, has nothing to do with the gym or nutrition. And that, exactly like you said, that's why people come back. So I think the benefit of, and obviously you could text your clients when you're a personal trainer. I just don't think the communication just wasn't really like that when you were a personal trainer. It was like, well, I've got my next session in 10 minutes. I don't have time to sit and text people. And then you've been in the gym for 8 hours. You want to go home and stare at a wall. And so to then have to text everyone and stuff, you didn't really do it. Whereas I think now when you're fully online and you can dedicate your day to, having Zoom calls and messaging people and having that daily communication, it's such a game changer. For one, from an accountability standpoint, but two, you build rapport so much faster. It's like within a week, you're best buds with someone. And another, I guess you could say, case study was, one of my favorite clients. She's mid 60s, started with me at around 360 pounds. And now she's around 200. I think we're about three years in. And our first conversation that we had, which was, I was in a lay-by in my car because I was running late, and I was sat on my laptop. Again, benefits of
Mr. Punctual.
Yeah,
Mr. Punctual.
I'm never late. I was late. But again, the first conversation I had with her, I said, the only way that this is going to work is if you and me become best friends. It was nothing to do with, right, well, we need to break these bad habits and stuff. I said, the only way this is ever going to work is if we're best friends, because it's going to take us half a decade to get to where you want to be. And we're not going to last that long if we're not friends. And we've had a Zoom call every week without fail for 3 years. Even on Christmas week, New Year's, like without fail, we'll have a Zoom call every week. And again, it's that I don't think, one, I wouldn't even know she was on this planet if we weren't doing remote online coaching. But two, just the ability to have that communication every week and be able to become best friends with someone on the other side of the world, like, to me, is like, blows my mind. Again, you change someone's life who you've never met in person. I still never met her in person. I love that aspect of the online coaching.
I was going to say, like, your ability to build rapport online is so much greater than like in-person training. Like you said earlier, Taylor, it's like you get 1 hour. And even then when you go in gyms, you see trainers in between sets, they're probably on their phone swiping, like basically hands in pockets, like, oh, your 2 minutes is up or whatever, like next set. Whereas like that time in between, if you like, the most important thing, build a rapport with your client. You need to become best friends if you want to get them results. Like ask them questions about their day, like ask what they've been doing, like take your interest, because you only just need to show that you care sometimes and someone will make a change. So, well, this person actually cares about me. Take that online, how many more touch points you can have to build that rapport, not like so much faster as well. Every day, like you said, Zoom calls, messages, like the weekly calls we have, all opportunities to build that rapport so much faster. And like we said, the results through the roof.
Think about it as well, even from a selfish standpoint as a coach, like you build skills through experience, isn't it? So, you know, and one of the best skills you have as a coach is being able to deal with a wide variety of people. You know, I've coached everyone from, you know, Margaret in her 70s trying to drop some weight to guys who fight in the UFC. It's like there's such a wide spread.
You're saying that Margaret couldn't make it in the UFC?
I don't know if Margaret can take a smack, I'll be honest. And that's quite a key part of a UFC fighter. No, it's like, it's when you're in a gym, like how many people can you realistically work with? And that over, you know, whereas in a month, how many people can you realistically work with in a month's period? Whereas online, that number can double, that number can triple. And now think of how many different people you're going to work with now over a 10, 15, 20-year period. The experience that you get from working with all these people just helps you develop as a coach. And as we've said before, is one of the key skills as a coach is getting the most out of people. Well, the more people you work with, the better that you are actually going to get with those skills. So it, you know, from a client standpoint, it's phenomenal. But I think, again, selfishly as a coach, I think it's taken my skills as a coach just so much further than I would have even imagined just working as a PT, you know?
I think I guess one of the cons of online training, as the way people perceive it, is one, there's zero barrier to entry, and that anyone can call themselves an online coach, and there's no governing body to say, you can't, someone couldn't be a drug dispensary, you need licenses and things. It's very hard to regulate quality control with online coaches. So anyone can do it. Someone's got six-pack and they're like, oh, I'm now taking on clients. And I think for a while I had a bit of resentment towards that, because I would feel like people would put me in that same category of, oh, you're just doing it as a bit of a side hustle, a bit of fun. And I'm like, this is like my livelihood. And people will always say, how did you get so good at coaching? And I would say, well, I treat it like a normal fucking job. It's like I spend 40 to 60 hours a week, if not more, talking to people and sat in front of my laptop, on Zoom calls and things. And it's like, if you think you're going to do it for a bit of pocket money, you're in the wrong business, because it's incredibly, like anything, I think the things that are the most rewarding are also the most taxing, in that, for years I would lose sleep over clients' progress of like, why can't I get through to this person? Or, if you got 100 clients, one of them is going to be going through something traumatic at any one time. And I think it takes a skill that you develop over time to be like, that's horrible, and I can be there to support that person, but that's not something that I have to live with myself, in that, one, you still have to provide service to 99 other people, but also you've got your own shit to deal with as well. And so if you try and take on 100 people's problems, you can quickly burn out. And I think it's a skill that we've probably all mastered by getting to the point of near burnout and thinking, well, I need to change my systems and put some boundaries in place. But again, like you said, I think you couldn't physically work with enough people in person to build the skill set that you have now. In that, we've probably worked with, I hate saying thousands, because I don't think anyone's worked one-on-one with thousands, but a couple hundred, a few hundred people. Yeah,
I think the numbers rack up. When you think about, like, I remember doing training programs and things when I was like 20. So if you do factor in how, because again, that's still a learning experience as a coach. Yeah. Think of how many people you've engaged with. Like, even before, I wasn't even charging. When I first started online coaching, I wasn't even charging people. I was doing it because I thought it was fun. I was just sending people training programs, and I was trying to figure out diets and stuff for people and trying to help people lose weight. And it's like, and that's why, again, there's so many coaches out there now, but how many good coaches are there? Yeah. There's so many terrible coaches, because anyone can call themselves a coach. So now so say now everyone in the world is a coach. So now how many actual good coaches are there? And that's why like people come to me and they're quite new in coaching, and they're like, how do you get to where you've got from a coaching standpoint? And it's like, you don't even know, like you're so far. I can't tell you anything right now that is going to be like, oh yeah, what you want to do? You want to buy this book, and this book's going to tell you all the secrets, and you're going to be an amazing coach. Yeah. Like, good luck. Like, I've been refining these skills and having shockers from when I was, you know, when you think of like coaching mistakes. So when I first started coaching, online. So I was doing diets and stuff. I had some guys macros all set out, and he asked for some like meal recommendations. And I remember writing him. So he had a meal. It was obviously back in the day, chicken, rice, and broccoli,
classic.
But of course, and it was 75 grams. I remember it so vividly. 75 grams of basmati rice, uncooked. And then about 2 weeks into coaching, and obviously I didn't think of this.
I know where this is going. I
hadn't made this mistake by this point. So I was like, and he met about 2 weeks into the program, and he goes, I can't eat any more of this rice. And I was like, what, 75 grams of rice? Like, it's not hard. Like, that is what I've got, like the stomach of a mouse. And he was like, no, it's just way too crunchy. And I was like, what? He's like, way too. He went, mate, it's so crunchy. It's like hurting my teeth. And I was like, please don't tell me you're eating that uncooked. He was like, yeah, you wrote uncooked. And I was like, oh God, I really got to get better at this. I got to be more clear with my instruction here. And I remember thinking to myself, from that standpoint, if you can stick to 2 weeks of uncooked rice, he had no problem getting shredded. No problem. Because if you've got the ability to adhere to that for 2 weeks. But it's stuff like that. Like, I was making those mistakes from, is that my mistake or his? I don't know. More his. But it's like, if
take ownership, mate.
And I'm making those mistakes 12 years ago now. Yeah. So it's like, and then obviously going through the undergrad, going through the masters, going through the PhD, working with all these different types of people. And they're like, oh, you know, what do I need to do? And I'm like, well, you've just started, so that's a good thing. And I'll speak to you in 10 years' time. I'll speak to you in 12 years' time. That's what you need to do.
Yeah.
There's none of this. I know you guys are the same as well. Like, I've known Ryan since I was 18. What's that? 2.5 years. I don't know. So 14 years. And I've known you not much longer than I knew him.
Yeah.
More on a closer level as of more like recent years. But it's like, you've been in the game so long. And I'm sure you look back at some of your coaching practices as well, and we're like, man, that was not the best for me. So it's like, it takes time. Like, again, the cream always rises at the top. Like, it was hard when you were like coming up as a coach, and you know you're good, yet there's these people who are, you know, a bit more handsome, and they're more handsome, I don't know. But
yeah, what are you trying to
say? but they're rising to the top, but then they soon start to fall out. It soon starts to speak because they're not good, and people will soon find that out.
They're in it for the wrong reasons. You know, they're in it to make a quick buck. And like you said, you started coaching online because you enjoyed it. You know, I started coaching online, helping out a previous mentor of mine, having no idea that I was going to get paid for it. It was just I was doing a favor for a friend, and I loved coaching. And you know, it wasn't until that he was like, send me your bank details, that I realized, oh, I can do this as a job. You know, and it was like, I remember getting my work email set up with that company. And I felt like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory running down the street with a golden ticket, thinking like, finally, like I can do something now and make a big difference. And you know, and now we're sat in Scottsdale, you know, doing a podcast with YouTube bum chums.
Who would have thought it?
I always say, I would like to say, oh, how do I become a coach? I say, well, you can just call yourself one if you want. Do you want to become a good one? 15 years, see you down the line. Work with hundreds of clients over 15 years.
I mean, I think just to, obviously we spoke about, you know, our experience, personal training and online coaching. But I think for listeners that are kind of torn between, okay, so are you saying personal training or online coaching? I mean, I think we would agree, you know, if you're a absolute beginner, you know, white belt to training, having no experience in the gym, I think having someone there in person, to like a good personal trainer to teach you basic movement patterns so you can just get a grasp on what movements should feel like, you're gonna expedite the time that it takes you to learn movements with someone in person. Just being able to physically put you in position, I think that's a limitation of online coaching. Is, you know, you can see what someone's doing wrong and you can give them the cues, but sometimes you just have to grab their knee and be like, it needs to go here. And so I think that's an advantage of in person. But I think once you've got that foundation built in the gym, from a nutrition standpoint, I've never seen an in-person nutritionist doing consultations in person be more successful than a remote coach. And then from a training aspect, again, there's a ton of stuff you can do now with video feedback, and coaching cues, but also from a programming standpoint, it can be just as fast, just as auto-regulated, provided you have good rapport and communication with your coach. There is really no downside to switching to online. Again, if you're working with a good coach with a good track record, and I would say if you are looking for coaches, shameless plug, Supra Human has some exceptional coaches, but also look for a track record. If they're not willing to share client stories, or if you're unable to speak to a client that currently works with them to give you feedback, they're red flags to me. I'm going to look at someone's track record, how long they've been doing it, how they communicate with their clients, their communication approach and things like that. Because there's so many bad ones, like you said, where, they're just after your money and they send you a cookie cutter template and you never hear from them again. And that, that makes me sad because, again, we're lumped into that same industry. But I genuinely think the standard of coach that we've got at Supra Human, we were talking about this earlier, everyone's got their own kind of expertise and flavor, but as a team, between us three, we've probably got one brain, which is probably quite intelligent. But I think as a team, we can pretty much solve every issue, regardless of whether you're training for the Olympics or, Margaret 72nd birthday, want to drop a dress size. We've got the skill set to deal with all of that. But yeah, I think if, again, we spoke about paralysis by analysis previously, and you might be stuck thinking, do I go online or do I go to an in-person trainer? I would say, following that, if you're experienced, I think online coaching could be a game changer. If you're looking to learn the basics, then get yourself in the gym for a couple months, and then I think you'd be ready to kind of graduate to an online coach.
Yeah. So yeah, spot on. It's anything above learning the movements. I think on-floor PT becomes not
almost
very,
obsolete.
Yeah, not that useful anymore in this sort of modern age. Whereas if you're, you've got that already down, you know how to at least move in a gym and you're confident in a gym, you don't need that help, then it all moves online.
Yeah. Well, thanks guys for tuning in, and be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube, and we'll catch you next time.
If you love this show, please like, share, and leave us a 5-star review so that we can help more people. I'm John Madsen, Supra Human CEO, reminding you to always go get what's yours.